Have you ever stopped to think about what a math test for a 7-year-old can tell us about ourselves? Well, today we're going to do just that. We're diving into a real exam from Thailand. And trust me, it's about way more than just adding and subtracting. This thing is laying the foundation for how we solve problems for the rest of our lives. It kind of begs the question, right? What does it actually mean to be good at math when you're 7 years old? Is it just about, getting the numbers right? Or is it the very beginning of something so much bigger? And let me give you a little hint. It's definitely not just about getting the right answer. See, this test is quietly building the mental scaffolding, the logic, the problem-solving skills that all of us use every single day, whether we realize it or not. So here's the plan. We'll look at the challenge itself, then see how it ties math to the real world. We'll watch these kids become data detectives. And finally, we'll connect all the dots to see what this seemingly simple test really reveals. Okay, let's dive right in. This test is built to challenge these young minds in two very specific but super important ways. So the first challenge, it goes way beyond just, 2 plus 2. These aren't just your average word problems. I think a much better name for them is story puzzles. They're these little real-world scenarios that you have to figure out before you can even think about doing any math. Okay, check this out. This is a real question, straight from the test. This isn't some abstract equation, right? It's literally a shopping trip. It's a situation you or I could be in tomorrow. This is math that feels real, because it is. And this is where it gets interesting. It's not just one single calculation. First, the student has to figure out the total cost. That's multiplication. Then they have to take that number and subtract it from what they paid to figure out the change. It's a two-step process. So what's the big deal here? It's all about translation. You have to read a story, come up with a logical, multi-step plan, and only then do you actually crunch the numbers. That's a massive mental leap, and honestly, it's a core skill for pretty much everything in life. All right, so that was part one. Now, for the second half of the test, we're going to switch gears completely. We're moving away from words and into pictures. This is where the kids get to become little data detectives. And the main tool they're using here is something called a pictogram. Now, it's a pretty simple idea. You just use pictures to represent numbers. But as you're about to see, there's a really clever twist here that tests a very, very important skill. And here it is, the golden rule. It doesn't matter if you're a second grader or a CEO looking at a quarterly report. Before you can understand any chart, you have to check the key. It's like the secret decoder ring for all the information. Now look at this. At a glance, you see 10 smiley faces next to cats. But look at the key down at the bottom. It says 1 smiley face actually equals 2 students. This is that critical leap from just counting things to abstract thinking. You can't just count the pictures anymore. Okay, so this is the real test. You know that each one of those little icons stands for 2 students. So what's the real number of cat lovers in this class? And there you have it, 20. It's just simple multiplication, right? But it's wrapped inside this layer of data interpretation. You have to see the icon, remember to check the key, and then do the math. You're officially reading data. So we've looked at the 2 big parts of this test, the story puzzles and the data charts. Now, they might seem totally different, but they're really just 2 sides of the exact same coin. This slide just sums it up perfectly. On one side, the story problems are teaching you how to translate language into a logical plan. On the other side, the data charts are teaching you how to look at visual symbols and pull out their meaning. It's all about translation and interpretation. Okay, so let's step back for a second. What is a test like this really teaching 7- and 8-year-olds? What's the hidden lesson here? Here's the most important point. This test isn't just about multiplication or subtraction. It's a full-on workout for the brain. It's training kids in multi-step problem solving, in translating concepts from one form to another, in reading data, in paying super close attention to details, like that chart key, and in thinking abstractly. These are not just math skills. These are life skills. And that's really the big takeaway. This whole thing, this whole exam, is a carefully designed gymnasium for the mind. It's building the mental muscles that these kids are going to need to navigate a world that's only getting more complex and more data-driven. So, I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If this is how we're teaching the fundamentals of logic and interpretation to kids so early on, what are the basic building blocks of thinking that maybe we as adults should go back and practice ourselves?